And one of the better options I will say is Zillow, but on the Zillow side, I think they're also leaning to a Redfin model to where they are now almost getting to become a brokerage. And I'll tell you, just Zillow for me has worked tremendously, and it has also failed tremendously. There was one year where Zillow closed 10 deals for me. There was another year where I spent $10,000 with Zillow and I closed 0 deals from that 10 grand. I did end up closing multiple deals from Zillow clients from the previous year, but not that year where I spent up to 10 grand and I had to stop and I said, this doesn't make sense this year, because that was last year. The interest rates were so high, buyers weren't making a move. I did close 2 deals from Zillow clients, but those were clients that I had met in previous years that I had just built a relationship with. Either they wanted to buy a second home or sell a home. They were flipping and they called me. So technically that is still a Zillow lead, but it didn't come from that 10,000 that I spent last year. I got 0 from that, but I did get some leads from Zillow. I'll say Zillow, what gave me a red flag was I closed a deal in Bowie, Maryland for Zillow, and 400 and something thousand. Great transaction. The guy knew what he wanted. He grew up in the neighborhood, divorced. His wife is down the street. He just saw a house in his old neighborhood that came on the market, and he bought it because he wanted to be closer to his kids and things like that, and that's just his neighborhood. Even though he's divorced, he just wanted to go back to his roots. So he knew what he wanted. It was a straight up transaction. He actually knew the person that owned the house. That was his neighborhood. Smooth deal. On signing, the gentleman was asking me for a discount. And he said Zillow told him that if they worked with their agent, they'll get a discount. And we called right there at the signing table before the buyers came. We called Zillow to clarify because I wasn't aware of that. And the person on the phone from Zillow was trying to tell the guy he'll have a conversation with him when I'm not there. But what I gleaned from what they were saying is they have their own agent, because Zillow ended up being the lender. They provided him the lender. And they were saying if you work with our agent, so maybe the lender, well, I don't know who it was. They had somebody they wanted him to work with, and they'll give him a discount. And that rubbed me off the wrong way. It's like, I've already paid for this lead. Why are you trying to get it away from me? It just felt like slimy business. I've already paid for the lead. We're at the closing table, but the gentleman was thinking that I'm the Zillow agent that if he works with, he'll get this deal, but they had another person in mind. So whether it was Zillow directly or the Zillow lenders that had their lender, that their realtor, that if you worked with that person, they'll give you a deal. It didn't come across correctly to me. And the client ended up being mad, even though we closed the deal. He was disappointed that that promise was made to him. Thankfully, 2 weeks ago, I was flying on a vacation, going out of state. Walking through the TSA, I ran into that client. And I said, hey, Mr. So-and-so, how are you doing? He was going with his girlfriend or wife, and turned around and said, hey, that's my realtor. Very happy to see me. Why? Because I don't just close deals and forget about the clients. Over the Christmas holiday, I sent him a card with a little gift card to grab some coffee, just thanking him for his business. So I guess now he's in the house he wanted to buy, and I've engaged with him over maybe 1 or 2 holidays to just wish him happy holidays, how's the house going, send him just some material. He's calmed down as far as to me, and actually referred to me as his agent to his significant other that he was with. Shook my hand. We had a great conversation. He told me he was going to Mexico, and I told him where I was going. He said, oh, you're going to stay in the cold weather. I'm going to go where it's warm. So at least I've built that relationship with that client. But it was a rough closing because of whatever promise that lender that Zillow had given him, you know. So that let my antennas go up. Like, are they leaning more towards the Redfin business model, which is they'll have their own agents and they'll have their own lenders. And as an agent now, you got to either partner with these big brokers. If Zillow and realtor.com all become brokerages, you got to either partner with them because your money is not going to be as big to fight against them, or you try the other sources that I'll mention here. You work your sphere of influence because these people know you and they trust you already. Your friends know you, your family members know you. So you go into those as a warm lead. They already know you and trust you. Zillow can't compete with that. Or you become your local expert in your neighborhood to where Zillow and Redfin, if they become brokerages, they cannot compete with you as the local person they trust. You got people who do toy giveaways in their neighborhood, turkey giveaways in their neighborhood. Some realtors do cleanup day. They do a trash pickup where they rent like a big dumpster and then they help all their neighbors load up their garage things. Zillow cannot compete with the human thing of you actually touching and meeting and mingling with your neighbors. Or you do home buyer webinars. Some people do open happy hours. I don't really get into the alcohol thing, so that may not be my strength, but some people do that. But you know, there are so many different avenues where you can actually meet people. I know a lady who was working with a school, then got into PTA, and now she's built almost like a referral base from her PTA. So Zillow and these big brokerages cannot compete with the one-on-one and building. So it's still enough to go around for everybody. But one thing that let my antennas go up is like, this model may be changing with Zillow. But to me, Zillow has been very successful. One year, I think I did 10 deal max with Zillow, but I've had repeat clients with Zillow to where we've closed maybe 5 other deals after that. And same with Redfin. I only did 2, but then I had a repeat client that came back years later that I did something with. And to my knowledge, those that come back years later, I don't think you owe Redfin on that. You owe them on that first transaction.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.